What's up, guys? BK on the podcast channel once again. Today we're going over my picks for Week 7 of the 2024 NFL season. So let's start off with the Thursday night matchup. And this week we got the Denver Broncos going to the Caesars Superdome. Yes, I like this place very much, to play the New Orleans Saints. And I really did not know who to pick for this one. I mean, both these teams are kind of mid at this point, I would say. You know, you got the Saints at 2-4, and then you got the Broncos at 3-3. I did not. I'm gonna get into when the Chargers play this week. I'm gonna get into what I thought about the game they had last week against Denver, but I thought Denver in the end there it got pretty close. I thought they were gonna come back and save the week for me. So I would say last week was actually my best week. I was like I like hit every single pick out of the park. I predicted pretty much every single game correct except the one where the Denver Broncos and the Los Angeles Chargers. That was the only one I got wrong last week. So yeah, I don't know where I'm gonna put the stat, like where like my picks will go. I'll think of something. But for this matchup, I decided to give Denver this matchup because I think New Orleans is struggling right now. I mean, it's understandable. You know, Derek Carr's out. They got Spencer Rattler in. So with that in mind, I thought I'm just going to give this one to Denver, and I gave them a 52% chance to win. I think in some places I look to, a lot of people had Denver like winning this one too, despite it being at home for New Orleans. And they are known to be like a really good team at home, I guess. I mean, I guess it makes sense though. You know, they play in that like dome, so like no kicks will go like flying off to the left or the right by the wind. Yeah, it's an interesting thing about when you play in a dome like that. So with that in mind, you may think, okay, I gave New Orleans it, right? Well, I didn't, because I just thought Denver at this point is a more stable team. I think Bo Nix might be able to outclass Spencer Rattler. I can't believe I'm saying that, but I think it could happen. So I got Denver in this matchup. Very close, though. It's funny, I got a similar score for this one. So in this matchup, we got the New England Patriots going to Old England, right? It's funny, right? To face the Jacksonville Jaguars. So Drake May last week, he actually did better than I thought he would. You know, I expected them to lose. I didn't really think they would beat one of the best teams in the league, the Houston Texans, and I was right about that. However, Drake May did get some good looks in there. He got a couple touchdown passes. However, he did throw some interceptions too, but it's his first game. I wasn't expecting him to ball out, but he did decently well in his first game. As to the Jaguars, you guys kind of let Chicago walk over you last week in London, and this is when they will switch over to start playing in Wembley Stadium. So the past two games they've had in London were at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, and the ones that they're going to be playing in now, or the games that are going to be played in London now, are going to be in Wembley Stadium. So at least the Patriots get to play in Wembley Stadium. I think that's pretty cool because I do like Wembley Stadium. I don't usually talk about like stadiums that are like outside of the U.S., but in the future I do want to talk about those stadiums that are outside the U.S. So back to Jacksonville. I thought it would be a closer game than that, but I guess Chicago had their own plans. So this matchup was actually kind of tough because I was like, both these teams are 1-5. They kind of been stinking it up. My thought was, who do I think had a better offense? And in the end of the day, I decided that against my favoritism of the Patriots, I got Jacksonville edging it out in this one. I think they'll squeak out a win against the Patriots in this one. And so now the next matchup, we got the Philadelphia Eagles going to MetLife to play the New York Giants. So both these teams I thought kind of underperformed last week. I came into the game like on Sunday night last week in mind that, wow, New York scored 29 points against the Seattle Seahawks. So I thought like they would put up more points, but in the end of the day, they really only put up 7. So I went really conservative with how much points I think they're going to put up. So I gave them 14, and I gave Philadelphia 28. They also kind of underperformed last week, I thought, too. I mean, I really thought they almost gave Cleveland the game last week, and I don't think Cleveland's that good of a team. They're struggling with a couple things, including their QB. That whole situation's a little weird, I guess. So I gave Philadelphia this one. I think they will handily beat the New York Giants. The dynamic for this matchup, I think, will be interesting because this will be Saquon Barkley's first game against his former team, the New York Giants. Interesting 1 o'clock game we have here. So we got the Seattle Seahawks going to Atlanta to play the Falcons. So, yes, this is the first time I pull out the 50-50 card in this one because As for chances, I think chances is a completely different thing than actually predicting the game. It's like giving like a chance on something happening. I think is different than predictions. That's just all I'm gonna say about that. So that's why you see the 50-50 there. Even though I gave Atlanta this one, I think Atlanta will honestly edge out Seattle in this matchup. You could say they have the home field advantage in this one, and I would agree they probably do have the home field advantage in this one. Based off from what I've seen, they do tend to win some close games at home, and I think this could be another one that they edge out. I'm just like looking based off how they performed like 2 weeks ago on Thursday Night Football against the Buccaneers. I think Seattle is in a very similar range as Tampa is, so I think this would be a very comparable matchup for Atlanta. But I still think it's going to be a very close game at that. However, on the opposite end of the spectrum, games that I do not think are going to be that close is going to be this matchup with the Tennessee Titans going to Buffalo to pay the Bills. Pay the Bills? Wait, did I say pay the Bills? No. They'll pay the Bills a visit. That's what. What I was thinking for this one was that if the Titans, because I remember last week I picked Indianapolis to beat them last week, and they came through Indianapolis to beat them with Joe Flacco of all people. I'm going to get more into him when Indianapolis comes up on the schedule here, but my thought was if Tennessee can't even beat Indianapolis with someone like that in there, then I just don't expect them to do that well against Buffalo, and Buffalo's been doing pretty good, I think, as of late. A lot of people thought they wouldn't be doing that good without Stephon Diggs there, and I understand, he's like one of the best wide receivers in the league. He's been very consistent for them. But I still think they were going to be like the best team in the AFC East, and they are, I think, as of right now. I mean, when you look at it, I still think Buffalo has all the offensive weapons and all the stuff that made them great, or that has made them great these past few years. So I think they'll do pretty good in this matchup, and I don't remember Buffalo played a home game this year. I don't know. I'm sure they have. I just don't remember them playing home in any of these videos I made. And the next matchup, we got the Cincinnati Bengals going to Cleveland to play the Browns, the Battle of Ohio, as they call it, or Battle of the Orange Teams, whatever one works. I think both are pretty fun. It's kind of like a college football rivalry. I don't know. I'll talk about college football sometime on this channel as well. It's funny I'm bringing that up now. So Cincinnati did pretty good last week against New York on Sunday Night Football. I mean, I thought the bar was kind of low for them. I mean, beating New York isn't like the biggest thing ever, but it's still a win. So in this matchup, I think the bar is still pretty low for them. However, I think Cleveland might put up a decent fight in this one. That's why I have them getting 20 points, because last week I thought they did better than I expected. I thought I thought they would get a touchdown, but they almost won the game against Philadelphia there. I'm like, oh, are they going to pull it off here? Ruin my pick? But no, they didn't. So, but as of right now, I think Cincinnati is better than Cleveland in pretty much every aspect, even defense, which is arguable. So I got Cincinnati winning this one by a couple of touchdowns. And into the next matchup, we got the Houston Texans going to Green Bay to play the Packers. So this was actually another tough matchup to predict. Hence the 50-50 right there with my, percentage or chances. Despite it being a close matchup, from what I saw, people think that Green Bay is still going to win this one. And, I could see that happening too. But in this one, I just think Houston's a better team. That's why I chose them in this matchup to edge out Green Bay in this one. Maybe they'll just get a field goal and then that will be the game. But yeah, I think this will be a pretty good game, and I'm hoping I get this one, because I think it's going to be on CBS. So I'm hoping I get this one, because usually, at 1 o'clock on CBS, I will get the Patriots, because that's it's local. So or it's the team that's local to me. So hopefully I get this matchup at 1 o'clock. All right, the next game, we got the Miami Dolphins going to Indianapolis to play the Colts. So this is another interesting matchup. This is what I'll say. If they have Tua in there, I think they'd win this game. But if they don't have Tua in there, I don't really think they're going to beat Indianapolis. And so, remember back there, I was talking about Joe Flacco, right? So let's talk about Joe Flacco. So I remember when Anthony Richardson went down, and this is like the second season in a row this has happened to him, right? He went down in his rookie season, which was last season, and then he goes down this year again. So it's like, is this dude ever going to be able to play or, get some minutes in there? From what I saw from people that were watching him, they said he wasn't that good, but I'd have to see for myself. But however, like I think Joe Flacco could really save this team. He really did save Cleveland last year, like in the middle of the season. He kind of like just came up off the couch and was like, "All right, let's get this team in the playoffs," and he did that exactly. So I think he could really save Indianapolis and maybe get them a wild card spot. But in this division, I think it'd be difficult. I think all the teams equally have a shot at getting there. So yeah, if Tua is not in there, I think Indianapolis will win this one. Okay, we're back to the good matchups now, and in this one, we got the Detroit Lions going to Minnesota to play the Vikings. So I know someone that probably won't be so happy about what I'm about to say about the Vikings, but I think Detroit last week did really good, and it might have been the best game I ever saw them play. I've seen them play here and there in the past couple of years, and I gotta say this team has just felt way different than anytime I saw them before. I would say 2022. Before 2022, they were always kind of just a laughing stock. They kind of just were that team that always just played on Thanksgiving and they'd always just blow it. I mean, they kind of have blown it on Thanksgiving still, but they still have that tendency. But overall, I think the team is just way better than any time I've ever seen them in my lifetime. I think they're just legit a team that could win the Super Bowl. Definitely a Super Bowl contender. Definitely a contender to win the division. Despite Minnesota being 5-0 right now, I think this is going to be another very close game. Probably going to be the best game of definitely one of the best games of the week for sure. It's why I gave it another 50-50 because I could really see it going both ways. But if I had to predict, I would say Detroit would win this one. It's the next game. We got the Las Vegas Raiders going to Los Angeles to play the Rams. Both kind of the teams that are in the Sin Cities. I mean, Las Vegas is known as Sin City, but I think Los Angeles could be called Sin City as well. So this is another interesting matchup because I think both these teams are certainly lacking things. Definitely Las Vegas is lacking things because last week they traded Davante Adams to the Jets. That actually happened this week, but it's going to affect him, I think, this week. And, I'm not saying Davante Adams is doing that well for him. I don't really think he was making that much of a difference for him, but I think right now they're certainly in a sticky situation. But, however, I think the good news for him is that Tom Brady got approved as minority owner for the Raiders, and I think that could, certainly help him in getting that team rebuilt and stuff. And everywhere I, looked, they had Los Angeles winning, and I think I know why, because they might have Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp back. If those two are back, I would say that the Rams are going to win this matchup. But I think no matter what, it's going to be a close game, even though Las Vegas is certainly in a state of turmoil right now with losing Davante Adams. That's the next game. We got the Carolina Panthers going to Washington to play the Commanders. It seems like this matchup happens every year. I don't know. I see it on the schedule a lot for some reason. That's just me, I think. Maybe I just feel like I see that one a lot. So this is one where I think Washington will handily take out the Carolina Panthers. I think they will beat them in this one. However, I still think that Carolina always has a chance to at least get some points on the board on maybe with Bryce Young. When they had Bryce Young in there in that whole situation, they just really felt enabled. They really just felt, I would say disabled rather. They just really couldn't. I just felt like they really couldn't do much. Bryce Young obviously didn't know that much about what to do. So I think with Andy Dalton there, they have a little bit more confidence. I think they could do some stuff. You'll get some points on the board, but I just think Washington is just on a roll right now. So I think that's why they're gonna get 35 points this one. You get another good one. We got the Kansas City Chiefs going to San Francisco to play the 49ers. So this was the matchup last year in the Super Bowl, and I remember in the game being like, okay, San Francisco might actually get this one, but I remember I predicted Kansas City to win, and this is another one of those games where it's I really have a hard time, or I'm really having a hard time thinking who has a chance to win this one. So I gave it a 50-50. And as for who I think is going to win this one, I always say this: you can never count out Kansas City, and I think they'll edge out San Francisco in this one, despite all of the indicators being okay, San Francisco, I think will take this one. I just think Kansas City will edge out this one. All right, so we got the Sunday Night Football matchup now, and in this one we got the New York Jets going to Pittsburgh to play the Steelers. So, no, that was the last pick. So Pittsburgh has hosted two Sunday Night Football games within the past like 2-3 weeks now. So I think that's kind of impressive actually. So this is another interesting matchup. As I said back there with Las Vegas, the New York Jets just got Devontae Adams in a trade. So it's going to be interesting to see how it will affect this one. And I actually was kind of right on the money with how much points the Jets were going to score last week. I predicted that they were going to get 20, and they did get 20. So it kind of shouts to me, right? So this one, I was actually another tough one to pick, but I think Pittsburgh on paper is still going to beat them. I still think their defense, both these teams I think are pretty good. They're evenly matched. But I just think Pittsburgh has more, I just think Pittsburgh has more clicking on offense than the Jets will. I think they will certainly take some time to get, Aaron Rodgers used to throwing to Devontae Adams again. I mean, maybe not because they've had chemistry for pretty much their whole career, pretty much. Except, the couple of years there when he went to the Raiders. But despite that, I thought this was another game that was pretty hard to predict because it's maybe Aaron Rodgers could see, or Devontae Adams was, just what he needed to get them over the hump, but I don't know. So I just gave Pittsburgh this one. Speaking of hard games to predict, we got the Baltimore Ravens going to Tampa Bay to play the Buccaneers, and I got the old logo, or, the logo that they use right now in there for Tampa, so this is another game that I had trouble picking because, yes, Tampa, I think, is a pretty good team. They really did well last week. They got 51 points in New Orleans and Baltimore. I predicted that they were going to beat. I predicted that they were going to beat Washington, and they did. So I was kind of around the money with them. So this was another tough matchup to go and predict because it's both these teams on offense are really some of the best teams in the league. Both of them, it's I looked. Tampa has the most points per game in the league, and Baltimore is 3. I thought Baltimore went on to be 1, but I guess Washington exists, right? So what it came down to, I thought, was that I think Baltimore just has a slightly better defense, and I think that a lot of teams, when they play Baltimore, they have a hard time stopping Derrick Henry or just stopping the rush. So I think Tampa's kind of inadequacies on defense might edge or give Baltimore the win this one. I think that was what I was thinking going into this one. But I did still think it was going to be really close. I gave Baltimore 51% chance to win this one, so it wasn't like it was going to be a blowout or anything. But I still thought there would be a chance there, or at least I thought there could be a chance there where Tampa could possibly upset Baltimore or possibly get the win in this one. I always thought that too. Ooh, so this one's interesting. So we got the San Diego. No, I did it again. I called them the San Diego Chargers again. Guys, can you get a kick of this? So we got the Los Angeles Chargers. Okay, that's the right one now. Going to Arizona to play the Cardinals. So this is an interesting matchup too. Thought we were done with the 2 games on Monday Night Football type thing, but I guess not. This must be a new thing they're doing. So this one's on ESPN Plus, which I don't remember if there's ever been a game exclusively streaming on ESPN Plus. Maybe there has, maybe there hasn't. I'd have to go back and look, but I think this is the first time I've seen a game being streamed on ESPN Plus. So this, I guess you could say, would be the bonus game of the week, which is interesting. It might be a little bit lackluster, but, I think this game could have the chance of being really interesting. So I had Los Angeles getting 31 and Arizona getting 24 in this one. I thought it'd be close because, maybe there was a chance to, what if teams just came out and just scored points? I think it's a very good chance in this one because I think both these teams on offense are pretty good, but the reason why I got Los Angeles winning this one is because Justin Herbert, if he's back, I think could easily win them this game. Hence why I gave the Chargers a 56% chance to win this one. And they were the one team last week. You guys, you really blew it for me. Or you guys really they ruined my bracket last week. I had a perfect card last week, right? I got every single matchup right except the one against the Broncos with the Chargers in it. And I think now I know the reason why I got it wrong was because Justin Herbert was playing. And I remember when I was looking at the game on my phone or whatever. I remember I saw Los Angeles, they had gotten 24 points to Denver getting nothing. And I'm like, wait a minute, what's going on here? How do they get this much points with Easton Stick, right? The guy that was supposed to be their backup. And then come to find out, Justin Herbert was playing, and then I'm like, oh, this all makes sense now. Because Justin Herbert is pretty good, I would say. And, they've been kind of in a sticky situation. I think they've really struggled with the coaching, and now I think that problem is solved with Jim Harbaugh coming in. I mean, the dude won Michigan a national championship last year, so I think certainly it will fix this team, maybe turn them around. Definitely going to be an interesting see like who comes out of the division, because you got Kansas City and Denver in there. I think Denver is definitely going to compete to get a wild card spot this year. I think Las Vegas might tank actually. Based off trading away Devontae Adams, they might tank this year to get some picks. They did get some picks for him. And anyways, guys, that's going to do it for this week's video for what I think will go on around the NFL. If you guys like this video, like it, or subscribe, do your thing, guys. And until next week, guys.